because today is a very, very important panel, right? So I think Jahan has already introduced everyone. But just to kind of, I'm borrowing here from BSV blockchain. Thode dino pehle he introduced Raheel by saying that he's the daddy of the gaming industry. So today we have a few more daddies and one mummy of the gaming industry as well. So these, if I can say so, these guys are some of the pioneers of the games industry in Pakistan. And now that we have all these new developments coming up, play to earn, NFTs, metaverses, the link between games industry and all these emerging technologies, AI in games, etc., is very, very interesting. So today we have the gurus of the industry to talk to us about all of that. So brief introductions ho gayi hai, but I think maybe my first question is going to be, and everybody can take a shot at it, is really what does the games industry in Pakistan look like today? Who wants to start?
Assalamu alaikum ji. So first of all, I'm really, really happy and excited to be a part of this panel because these guys who are here, they are the inspiration. So I'm really, really excited to, again, and really thankful for the team who just make sure, that I will be a part of it. So what the game industries look like here in Pakistan is actually very diversified. So we have a lot of mobile product company who are actually working for their own products and they are publishing by their own self, which is the biggest, I guess, market size here in Pakistan. And I guess it is the first a tier of the product companies जिन्होंने पाकिस्तान के अंदर as a product companies को अपने आप को launch किया. Before that पाकिस्तान की industry जो थी I believe कि वो बहुत ज़्यादा exist करती थी on the services side, but when the games actually came in तो ये काफ़ी self publishing से there is a lot of studios has been developed. Now we can see that we have been working with different publishers, then there is NFT, metaverse spaces out there. So it's very diversified and still we have a huge margin जिसमें लोग आ सकते हैं, new players की बहुत ज़्यादा जगह है, and we can actually take it to the world. Right now I think if we talk about the Asia Pacific area, we have a huge respect as a mobile gaming space. Overall the industry, so I believe there is a huge chance कि हम इसको और लेके चल सकें आगे forward. Thank you.
जी, खुर्रम.
Yeah, Samar already introduced us as old guys. So I'll say that 10 or 12 years ago, when probably Babar was slightly ahead of us, when he started the gaming industry in Pakistan, there were not enough people skilled to build games. So Babar and I had to train the resources. 10 or 12 years later, I think we are at a phase where we have made significant progress. Our game qualities and overall things are getting a lot better to what we were 12 years ago. It was, I think I would give credit to Babar for starting the industry. If it wasn't him, probably a lot of people would not have followed. Secondly, I think from that point, there's a lot of progress being made. Even when it was the era of a hyper-casual games, there were 8 and 10 games published by game developers alone in Lahore. That by any standard was a very high number for any specific region. Then I think also you'll be surprised to know that there are 3 offers for acquisition offers in the gaming industry that you might hear in a few months because they're in a due diligence state. And that basically speaks about the good work that our industry has done. And in my perspective, that still might be an unofficial number, but I and rest of the panel were discussing that probably we believe that we, as an industry, we represent about 10% of our software export. So that actually talks about the size of this industry. And there's a lot of, and I think the future is bright for this industry.
Yes, Ali, of course.
So I can't tell how. I'll just hope that my volume naturally carries. So some numbers. I think Khurram mentioned that we're probably 10% of the industry. We're looking into a more detailed report, but I think it's fair to say that the games industry generates about $200 million worth of export revenue. I think we employ anywhere between 15 to 25,000 people in the industry. This is both the informal and the formal industry. There are possibly between 100 to 200 game studios in Pakistan. It's a very flourishing field. And one interesting data point to look at is that our ratio of game industry revenue versus, for example, I do not think India is a fair comparison, but I think a lot of people are always curious about it. The ratio of Pakistan's IT export game revenue to our overall IT revenue is actually dramatically higher than India's. We're something like 20x the ratio number, right? Because India's entire industry is at 1.8 billion, but they also clock 100 billion in IT exports. However, we're like 10% of the overall slice. In terms of what kind of games are studios making, there's a lot of diversity, but it focuses mostly around mobile games. I think hyper-casual games is a very key vertical that has led to this spurt of many new game studios being formed. Then there's this sector which is very hard to define. We have many names for it, but I call it advertising games. Games which are, they're good casual games which are built predominantly, casual and simulation games which are predominantly trying to target ad revenue as a revenue source. I do not think in Pakistan right now we have a lot of the premium space in the games industry which comes from in-apps, and I think that's our next challenge, where companies will have to come and deliver the $1 million a month revenue product, and that's the next challenge which I think many companies here are definitely looking at and capable at targeting. And we also tend not to operate in the traditional PC and core gaming space, because I think we're significantly behind in the overall ecosystem for that. So just some insights onto what I have learned about the industry in the last year.
No, absolutely, because I think that's still very, very important. So 2 years ago, 3 years ago, when you had a conference which was on entrepreneurship, you wouldn't have gaming, right? You wouldn't have a panel. Chalo, NFTs is something which is upcoming, where metaverses, dobara se conversation abhi bhi kickstart hui hai. But gaming ka alag se panel nahi hua kar. So I think in 2 years, we're seeing 2-3 years, we're seeing this massive invest. And I think it's important to kind of, really understand the landscape. And I think we're coming to Babar. Yes, Babar, please add to that. Oh, you don't have to.
I think it's really important to mention, just to riff off of what everyone else was saying here, कि हम यहाँ gaming का panel कर भी क्यों रहे हैं, right? This is a technology conference, and it's really important, I feel, to address that point. Two things. Number one, दुनिया में जब भी कोई भी नई technology आती है, anything that's brand new, that is a tectonic shift in how human beings interface with technology, you have to look at which industry drives that change. Historically, and you can look at it throughout humanity, computing, internet, mobile phones, everything that's changed our lives, the industry that drives it first, almost always historically, has been gaming. So game development is actually on the cusp and the bleeding edge of technology. From computing power, to shaders, to hardware, to software. So it's a very important industry to nurture अगर हम अपने ecosystem में technology को adopt करना चाह रहे हैं and play with it and understand how to apply it. That's number one. But number two is equally important, which is कि एक industry है, which is ठीक है आप games बना रहे हैं. Some of us, in our 30s or 40s, because of the stigma associated with games, के बेटा game ना खेलो, we feel कि यार this is just a shugal mela wali industry, right? This is as far from the truth as you could possibly imagine. Most of the people on this panel are actually technology people. They can build really meaningful applications and business solutions, but they choose to build games because it's really, really technically very challenging, but the business upside of this is actually disruptive. That's the other reason why we're here. Ali mentioned that Pakistan we're maybe about $150-200 million in revenue. अगर आप Turkey की industry देखें, just about, I think it's kind of like size-wise, about 20-30,000 people like we are in Pakistan, but the value that industry generates in gaming is about $4-5 billion, all right? Now, all of our IT industry, and the debate is out there, 2 billion की है, 3 billion की है, जितने की भी है, the gaming industry has the potential to upend all of that and then some, and you don't need 10,000 people. You need 50 people in a room. So the potential of that industry is very, very high. And I think a lot of us in the industry have been trying to address that opportunity for the country. So our studio has been trying to shoot for the stars. Ali mentioned that we need to build games that have $1 million in IAP revenue. We're already there. Some of us are already there and beyond that. I think we can generate a very disruptive value from the local industry, and that's why that's what we're trying. We're not really there yet as a country, but I think if we invest in this industry, we can get there. So.
Absolutely. Thank you, Babar. So Varda wants to add something to that. And Varda, maybe take a moment also to reflect back when you joined. How many women did you see in the industry?
Is it? I missed it. Hello. Am I audible?
Not yet. I don't think so.
I think they're switching
They're switching the mics. Thoda sa ek do second lagte hain.
both at the same time.
Okay. So, adding more to what Babar just said, that there was this certain stigma around the gaming industry and gaming in general, especially in this country. So back when I was in university, having a career in gaming was considered suicide. Why are you even considering that? From that point to today, being here, I've seen how gaming studios have grown, and the manpower, the resources that they have grown. So from being a stigmatized career option to becoming a viable career options, especially in times where Corona was at peak and people were getting laid off, the gaming industry in general was booming. So that proves that, even though Pakistan might be behind, but it's already on path to becoming one of the countries that becomes very advanced when it comes to game development. Secondly, what we as an industry have started to accept it is that gamification has been always part of development, be it a banking app, be it education, be it a hiring process. All of these processes are now leading into a domain where they are gamified, because that attracts more people, because that makes the hiring process easier, because that makes the banking process easier, because that is where the education is headed. So now that the world is finally recognizing all of these capabilities and potentials, they're realizing how gaming has always been the backbone of all of this. And now it's not just something you do in your free time, it's something that is, creating careers and, helping technology move forward, be it NFT, be it how the metaverse is expanding. A while back, me and Ali were having a conversation that in a layman terms, when you look at the metaverse, the best way to describe it would be as an RPG. And people who play RPGs or people who play games would be better able to understand what the whole concept of being in the digital world or being in the digital realm really means.
So thank you, Varda. And you've gone to the next bit anyway. You started talking about metaverses, which is actually my next question. So what is the impact of emerging technologies on games? And then follow on to that is, how are your organizations responding to that? So whoever wants to go first. Yeah, Ali, go for it.
So the last panel that we did was already on metaverses, so I don't know how much more I want to add to it. But succinctly, I will say that Babar nailed it. We are always at the frontier. So it is not a surprise that when metaverse went large and when people started looking for first viable experiences, those experiences were in games. And I would not like to talk about the market, because the metaverse, in its relation to crypto, it's a highly speculative investment space. That's literally what it is, right? But Vada and I were just talking about this right now, that however, I feel that like any new space, if anybody remembers here, like Babar and Khurram were active during the heyday of the mobile gaming boom, in the beginning there's always the wild, wild west. But then after that, things solidify. If you look at VR today with the Quest 2 and such a viable device to finally bring VR to the masses, I call it like the first generation device which is viable, wouldn't have been possible if it hadn't been spurred by its gaming ecosystem, right? NFTs have inherent value. They are art. It's the same logic as the Mona Lisa, right? If you take a canvas and slap some paint onto it, why is it worth $100 million plus? Because human beings appreciate art. Games are inherently entertainment. They go back to the Stone Age. So I think emerging technologies will always have a game or a gamified experience leading that trend. This is the role because I think humans find it easiest to adopt. And I think this is the role that the game ecosystem will play perpetually.
It's not just an NFT. Games are, I think, impacting our lives, and they'll become an integral part of our life. I think Verda briefly touched upon that there's a concept of a gamification. I strongly believe that gamification is the way forward as well, though we all know NFT is also. How we think this is, I think we all know that Khan Academy to some extent gamified the learning, that's working. But there are a lot of other things that could be gamified. For example, can you teach someone a leadership skill through the gamification? Hard to imagine for a lot of people, but we did a product that's basically teaching leadership. We implemented it with jazz. It got a huge success. Can compliance be taught through gamification? And everything that's boring could be taught through a gamification and games. That's working. We know that's working. We have successful implementations around that as well. Could kids be taught on road safety through games? That's something is working. Could people behavior be changed through gamification? For example, teaching interfaith harmony. That worked. We worked on a project with the UN on that. So I personally believe that there's a lot to the game that we think it's just not the fun. It's a way to train. It's a way to educate. Anything that's boring could be made fun through game. So I think there's a lot of implementation for the game.
110% agreed. So I used to work for a financial inclusion organization, and I think when we talk about financial literacy, digital financial literacy, education of all sorts, gamification is really, really important. And that's something you see your kids, right? You remember the coin game where you were teaching them how to count, etc., or the typing game that we used to have, which was, on the computer, where you increased your typing speed back in the day. So there are all these things which can actually, over time, you can build your skill level. So completely agreed. And within games, within the industry, gamification is one of the verticals which actually has a very, very high CAGR. So again, if people are looking to enter into the games industry, perhaps that that influx of whatever you were doing, maybe you were an educationist before, but teaming that up with games, I think those are possibilities that we need to now start considering if we're not thinking about that already. Babar, you want to add something? Ji.
Yeah, I think I'll talk a little about the metaverse because where I sit on the US side, we're talking about now not just an ecosystem play within Pakistan, we're talking about a multi-billion-dollar company where we've invested at least on that side, we're investing hundreds of millions of dollars into this space. So we're looking at it at a very different level. Usme, I would say what Ali said was fairly accurate. The metaverse and NFTs or whatnot, these are speculative investment spaces at best. That's it. And then when you look at the gaming implementation of that, just like any other thing that you might invest in, आप Binance पे चले जाओ, आप crypto में डाल दो पैसे, आप metaverse में डाल दो पैसे, ठीक है. It's a very nascent industry जो अभी grow कर रही है. लेकिन जहाँ gaming में इसकी application है, वो absolutely exist करती है. इस वजह से exist करती है कि traditionally, and maybe you guys know this or people are aware of this or not, जो एक hardcore gamer है, जब वो किसी चीज़ में invest करता है या करती है, you're talking about a single person spending anywhere north of $100,000 to $500,000 over their lifetime into a game, right? Now, it's really hard to fathom some single human being buying essentially an airplane from you as a gaming company. In the past, ये जो spend था, ये consumable spend था, game में मैंने पैसे डाल दिए और वहीं के वहीं पड़े रहे. I can't reuse that money. जो metaverse है और NFT की जो space है, what it's opening up is कि ये वो जो gamer है, जो game खेल रहा है, वो उसको अपनी वर्चुअल एसेट्स पे एजेंसी अब आप दे रहे हो. आप ये कह रहे हो कि मैंने जब $5 लाख खर्चा है वो ज़ाया नहीं हुआ, मैं $5 लाख की चीज़ें ओन करता हूँ और मैं इन चीज़ों को फिर एक सेकेंडरी मार्केट पे रीसेल कर सकता हूँ. This is a new space now which has existed in the past. This is not a new concept. The concept is age old. People make a lot of money in this. You're talking about a multi-billion-dollar secondary market industry. Like NFTs and the metaverse has made this mainstream now where you are giving game players agency over their financial spend. And if you can monetize that accurately, there is a lot of money to be made, a very interesting market. I do not think this is applicable to the Pakistani market in any fashion whatsoever. That's my personal opinion, which we can talk about some more, but I don't think this is what we need to be investing in Pakistan right now.
I truly agree with Babar. और जब मैं पाकिस्तान का ecosystem देखता हूँ with the gaming sector, we are more in towards the mobile gaming space. Or when we talk about the mobile gaming space, the biggest players are women out there, and they don't like complex things. Or complex things like AR, VR. It's really nice to talk about these things, and wanted to get more investment. KR, we are a metaverse company, and we are developing the next metaverse. But when it comes to the real money, and you wanted to make the next $100 million, I think mobile is the industry, and if we don't have any player here in Pakistan who went up to that level, but that is very easy thing to us if we operate as an industry and start working more towards the real persona of the mobile game industry, because the mobile games, I believe that they are not really specific. They are very simple games who make a lot of money, or I could say in last 2 years the stupid games makes the most money. But because of those stupid games, if we show those games to the real users who play hardcore or mid-core games on the PC, they would say it's a very stupid game. But at the same time, when we talk about the mobile games persona, that game's doing really well, because the persona of mobile users is pretty different with a persona of the console gamer or someone who played PC games a lot. So I think that is the industry for the metaverse. I still believe we don't even have that right kind of a talent who can push that kind of projects here in Pakistan.
वो talent के ऊपर भी बात करते हैं, because I think that's an important one. But just quickly, very quickly from the audience, do we understand what an 8CG game is? Hyper casual game क्या होता है? We understand mostly. Everybody, yeah? Okay, awesome. फैजान आप कह रहे हैं yes, वो तो पता आपको.
We can actually call them the games who kills time.
Yeah, absolutely, right? So just one thumb games, quick आपने खेला, literally 1 minute में खत्म हो गया, then you move on to your next round. So literally, so you can do them while you're standing in line, while you're cooking, while you're doing whatever, at the parlor maybe, or whatever it may be. Okay, so my question though is going to be from that angle, right? So now we have PUBG on the mobile, we've got all these other games also that are now available. Do you think that there is a threat that's going to come to 8CG games? Or do you think the market, the audience is so distinct that it doesn't really matter?
I'll take it, but this is Babar is uniquely suited to answer this question.
Okay.
So for context, my US life, I guess, we run the second largest hyper-casual publisher in the world. Just for context, you're talking about $300-400 million of yearly revenue. So we see a lot of hyper-casual games. The hyper-casual is not under threat. The gaming industry always evolves, right? Hyper-casual is just a moniker. It's something you call this game, you say this is a hyper-casual game. It's not new. This is what's been made since the days of flash gaming, since 2000 and God knows whenever. The surprising part, why hyper-casual is a thing you might hear about. Look, we're all entrepreneurs or startup people here trying to build businesses, right? मैंने funds raise कर लिए, मैंने $1 million raise कर लिया, out of 30% मैंने company की दे दी, and then my goal is कि मेरा साल का revenue $5 lakh होगा. This is what we aspire to. For giving you context, we have studios, 2 बंदे बैठे हुए हैं कमरे में, 2 बंदे, 2 महीने लगाए, and they make $10 million. All right, happens all the time, day in, day out. Brazil, India, China, Japan, Pakistan, Korea, all right. हमने एक Mindstorm में इधर लाहौर में कुछ साल पहले 1.5 साल पहले ऐसे ही I would say एक चवल सी गेम मैं कहूँगा हमने बना दी, all right, on makeup. I had no idea this is what would happen. It made $15 million, all right. I'm like, man, बुड्ढे हो गए and trying to build companies and whatnot. What is this stuff? So hyper casual is nuts. Understanding the scope of the market is insane. But what happens is कि आप एक game बनाओ and you get 50 million downloads from it. Yeah, if you make 20 cents a download, which you can do if you know how to do it, you're looking at $10 million. So this is a very good space for the Pakistani industry to focus on, because it does not require a lot of, I'd say, technical chops to do. It does not require a lot of exposure to do. It requires low cost, high volume, rapid iteration, which Pakistan is uniquely geared to actually execute on. And I think a lot of companies have found success in this space. So I do not think hyper-casual is under threat. I do think that there will always be new games coming in the market. That is just the nature of the business. Every 3 years, the business looks different. You have to be on your toes and you have to evolve with it.
So I agree with everything Babar is saying, and I think I'll take the position of the numbers guy on the panel. It's important to understand the space in which hyper-casual games occupies. Fundamentally, there is a discoverability problem on mobile platforms. This is Apple and Google's problem, but it is that if you're trying to advertise the best of the market, the kind of games that are making $10, $20 million a month, are making it via a model called free-to-play. These are games powered by in-apps. But how do you get new users into that funnel? You know, like anybody from a traditional startup mindset understands this, that you advertise and then you get new users in the funnel, and then if you hold them for long enough, you monetize off of them. Free-to-play games require an endless supply of users which are willing to try these really high quality, high production titles, and hyper-casual currently fills that discoverability niche in which this is the segment of games, as Babar said, age-old. All of the old school retro games that we played as kids like Pac-Man, etc. would today be classified as hyper-casual. They are occupying the space in which they've expanded the gamers in the world from like 500 million people to 3 billion. All the new gamers in the world are fundamentally hyper-casual gamers. Many of them love the simplified experience of hyper-casual games. Many of them want to move upstream to better qualified experiences, right? Like if you remember, so I'm a huge anime fan. The first anime you watch, you are like, this is great, and now you want to maybe get deeper into anime. What are the best anime that have ever been made? There are deeper games available. Hyper-casual is here to stay. It will evolve.
Yep.
Hyper-casual games, like there are only 7 billion people on this planet. Once you hit numbers like 3 billion, 4 billion, okay, maybe everybody who's going to play games is now playing games. They will get more sophisticated, like hybrid casual, or the many names we have for it, hypercore.
Yep.
They will start leaning more towards in-apps. They will become more casual game experiences because it's a slider, right? You go from hyper-casual to mid-core to core.
Yep.
And I feel people will move up the slide. Hyper-casual games will become, if the audience wants, they'll become more nuanced, but they will remain the discoverability platform on mobile.
I think from my standpoint, I believe कि Pakistani market को with the hyper casual जो सबसे बड़ा threat है, that are the international publishers. Because the thing is, they use Pakistani talent as a tech shop.
Yep.
So they just wanted to come there and they ask you to develop a couple of prototypes, and we test everything and we understand everything, how games operate and how the money is being made. So I think for the Pakistani developers and Pakistani people who are into the business, they need to understand the publishing side very soon, because that's the real money is. So problem क्या हो रहा है कि जितने भी लोग हैं वो publishers के पास जा रहे हैं and they just take their 50%, 60% cut, and developers out of that 10 million, Babar has said, he only gets like, $2-3 million. If we wanted to make this same revenue goes up, we wanted to start publishing our own games. Either we have a couple of unsuccessful projects, but eventually with a lot of the, if the ecosystems create in a right way where you can help each other, there is no way, Pakistani industry can go into heights with the same talent. So the real talent and the real, worry I have is that, we wanted to start more publishing by our own self. That's we have been advising, and we have been advocating all the times that, the real thing is not how to make a game. The real thing is how to publish your game, how to remain your KPIs high, and how to make that into a successful product.
बिल्कुल ठीक है. So follow on question here, but let's take Varda's
I would like
comment as
to
well.
add a bit more to this conversation from a game design perspective. So when we talk about how PUBG and Call of Duty are now available on mobile, and that might be a threat to hyper casual, that is not possible, because from a game design perspective, when you're starting on working on a new game, one of the first things that you would do is select your target audience. So if your target audience does not play FPS, they will not play FPS. So that your game will not be under threat. If your target audience, especially the people who play hyper casual, like Saad mentioned earlier, that women spend a lot of money when it comes to mobile games. Yep. So they will not be affected by something that is of a completely different genre that is there in the market. So further adding to it, gamers are very loyal to the games that they're playing. If I go across the panel, the games that these people were playing when they were kids, they would still play those games. If I started out playing Overwatch, I will still stay loyal to Overwatch even if there are a lot of other third-person shooters or first-person shooters out there. So games do not threat other games. The quality and the production value, like Saad was saying that we need to get into, that is something that affects how well the game is doing and what would be the threat.
What you're saying completely resonates. I've never been a PUBG player or Call of Duty, sare games. Bachpan mein maybe I played Mario Brothers and sucked at it. So my sister would always beat me squarely and soundly. But Tetris, yes. So now on my phone you'll find whatever versions of Tetris you can get, right?
The other day I went to this Maverick film and I was seeing a girl playing Candy Crush and the Tom Cruise was on the screen. So just imagine what kind of engagement games have.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so coming back to what Saad was saying, right? So publishing, ठीक है? बहुत बड़ा gap है. We understand. We keep hearing from Turkish studios also trying to do exactly what you guys are reflecting on as well. And obviously, on the other hand, we've got young developers, young people. उनको अगर $500, $1,000 मिल रहे हैं per prototype, they're willing to do that, right? वो सेल भी करेंगे प्रोटोटाइप बना के उसके बाद maybe if they end up getting publishing deals they'll do that as well, but at the end of it, after doing a lot of hard work, they're going to get very little money. So as an industry, sort of all of you guys over here, how can we start setting up publishing platforms? What's next?
So I think first we have to understand that gaming is a complex industry. Maybe in software industry you only need engineers to work on it, where our industry is slightly unique that you require a lot of skills. So you need a good artist, you need a story writer, you need a game designer, which would say maybe someone who comes with the concept and look at it. You need a very strong data science team. And worst of all, for publishing, you need people with a strong marketing skill. So I think so that, as I said, over last 12 years, we have barely covered those parts where art, engineering, and other things have come up. Publishing is something which is required a strong marketing and a data science skill. Our industry is coming up to that. I think before that, there would be an opportunity for other people like any publishers, and this I'm fine with that as long as people understand that. Our company always focused on self-publishing because that's where we thought that we were always strong with the marketing. And it took us a lot of time, but we still haven't cracked it. But I believe that's the way forward. It's just going to take a little forward because there were few unsolved loops in our game industry that took us longer. Whereas I think probably India and other countries, maybe Turkish, they had a better art skill. They had, because of the studios already had outsourcing shops there. So they had the skilled resources. We are slightly behind, but I'm sure we are catching up and we'll be there.
वो बिल्कुल आपकी बात ठीक है, and we're seeing a lot of interest by the government as well as private sector players where talent development is becoming much more, it's coming to the fore, a lot of focus on all sides, right? So, and Ali wants to say something too, and Babar wants to say something too. So, Babar, maybe?
Yeah, I think this topic of publishing is extremely important. The best analogy I think we can make is if you look at Pakistan's technology industry, IT, आप 80s को देखें, 90s को देखें, let's move into 2000s. What was our technology industry? We were never a product-oriented technology industry. हमारा काम ये था कि हम labor को outsource करते हैं और हम उसका arbitrage से पैसे बनाते हैं. That's how NetSol grew. That's how systems grew. That's how TechLogix grew. These are all the older companies from the 90s and whatnot. Excuse me. Eventually, these companies evolved into saying, "मैंने कुछ product बना लिया," right? But if you look at what we're all working on right now, हमारी कोशिश क्या है? We are not looking necessarily to scale our industry in Pakistan by just providing services. We can never be an Infosys, Tata level, country जहाँ हम लोग 50,000 बंदे हम outsource कर रहे हैं. We have to invest in product. And the way you invest in product is what was the problem in Pakistan? Why could you not invest in product? There was no capital. There was no VC. There was no ecosystem to say कि मैंने इस entrepreneur में मैंने $2 million डाल देने हैं, ठीक है? Gaming industry की ये exactly यही कहानी है. If you look at the gaming industry, started in the 2000s, coming now 2020s, हम लोग labor को outsource करते थे और अभी भी करते जा रहे हैं कि आपको बाहर से पैसे मिल जाते हैं, मैंने आर्बिट्राज कर लिया, मेरा खर्चा $1000, बाहर से $3000 ले लिए, 2000 बच गए, 100 बंदे रख लो, कितना बना मेरा, ठीक है यार, 100 टाइम्स whatever I'm making, मेरे $80000 बन गए और मैं अपनी 1.5 ईंट की मस्जिद बना के मैं बैठ गया, done. I'm happy. I will drive my Audi, I will have a good life, and I will say I run a company. Nothing wrong with that. The problem with that is you will never build an ecosystem. You will never build an industry. You will never have a disruptive win, period. So you have to have product companies. The problem with product companies in the gaming side is, when I told you the story, okay, we made $15 million, do you know how much got spent in marketing that game? About $10 to $12 million were spent in marketing that game. Profit आया $3 million का. अब आप VC से पैसे उठाते हो, आपको $2 million का चेक मिल गया तो बल्ले बल्ले हो गई. मैं अगर आपको कहूँ कि भाई यार ये एक गेम है, and as I said, चबल सी गेम है, आप $12 million इस तरह करो कि इसमें आप डाल दो. Who in this room or in this country would put $12 million into this game? Nobody, all right? I would never do it. I never understood it. None of us here really understand it. हुआ क्या कि we've evolved into a country जहाँ हम अब गेम्स बना सकते हैं. We know how to make games. I can promise you पाकिस्तान में इतना टैलेंट अब है कि बहुत अच्छी कॉम्प्लिकेटेड गेम्स भी बना सकते हैं. पहले नहीं था. Over time we've evolved. All these entrepreneurs, all of us 100-200 companies लगे रहे ecosystem बन चुका है. जहाँ हमारी पैक हुई है इंडस्ट्री की is we don't know how to make money from our games. I have been shocked with my recent exposure on कि खड़े आप किस तरह एक गेम में $100 million आप इन्वेस्ट कर दो. आंखें बंद करो, $100 million डालो, 2 साल बाद $200 million निकलेगा. All right? This is the gaming industry. This is what builds a multi-billion dollar industry. But we need to reach that point where someone is willing to invest not $100 million, but $10 million into a game, and I promise you, Pakistan can be a $1 billion industry. This is what's happening in Turkey. It does not come from जुगाड़ें. It does not come from मैंने वो mechanic बने हुए हम सारे लोग कि बस ठीक है यार गाड़ी बना सही कर लो. It doesn't come like that, man. You have to build a Mercedes-Benz factory. That requires investment. That requires risk taking. But if we do the publishing piece, I can promise you every company on this stage can be worth $100 million. Everyone. But we do not have that publishing piece. We need some guts to say, okay, bring in $1 billion and then invest it, and you will make the money. Meanwhile, all these external people, myself included, are utilizing our talent, our money, our resources to make games for their market, and उन्हें हारे हैं पैसों में. So we need to decide if we want to change our future, then we have to invest. It's just that simple. If you don't invest in that, you don't put in your money, you're never going to make big bucks. We'll always be second class, third class. So that I think publishing is the new problem that we must solve. And this industry, I think, can lead all of IT in Pakistan, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Saad.
I'm slightly disagree with Babar on this. और मुझे उम्मीद है कि अगर मेरे पास ऑडी तो नहीं है, लेकिन I convince खुरम भाई कि वो अपनी ऑडी बेच दें if we have the right KPIs for a चवल game. So this is something I can really say. और उसके अलावा I would say like a lot of faces here जो कि who can really invest a lot of money. The point is that you don't need your own money to spend, or not the VC's money. There's a lot of acquisition companies. If you have the right KPIs, they can give you like 10, 20, 30, 50 million. We have spent at least like $15 million on the acquisition per year. हमारा मसला पैसे खर्च करने का नहीं था, क्योंकि पैसे तो आ रहे थे. The पैसे मसला ये था कि पाकिस्तान से पैसे भेजने किधर से हैं. Tala has helped us a lot with that. But that is the problem we have been facing with the publishing. The publishing, we self-publish all over game, and we are proudly say that last 2 years has been phenomenal. मैंने CV जमा करवाए में इन सारे कंपनीज में अपने, इन्होंने कभी मुझे हायर नहीं किया, but the thing is that's how we have become a company. So I just want to tell one thing: if we focus on publishing, that is the right thing to do. We'll learn. हम गिरेंगे, 2 दफ़ा गिरेंगे, मुंह के बाहर गिरेंगे, सर फट जाएगा. लेकिन eventually when we get up, the money we will have in our pocket would be insane.
So amazing. First of all, again, my role as the data guy is to say the games industry is very unique in Pakistan. It is the one industry in the majority of the companies are product companies. The majority of the industry self-publishes. These are important things to understand, right? We do not mostly, मैं वो बदनसीब हूँ, I am that one company जो predominantly अपने पैसे work for hire से कमा रहा है. I am very much in the 1000 का बंदा लिया 4000 का बेचते वाला business. Saad is convincing me कि move करो इससे. But everybody else is publishing their own games. Saad is being very humble. These guys, between him and Khurram, the title of the largest Pakistan-born publishing company probably exists. These guys are spending north of $10 million. Sorry guys, business secrets नहीं ruin कर रहा हूँ, round off कर रहा हूँ, ठीक है? $10 million on their products in advertising. And now we talk about the systemic problem that he hinted at with Talha, right? I actually took this up with the federal government and we were like, guys, let me explain how gaming's model works. We have to spend our money out of Pakistan to advertise and then we earn double that money back. If you don't allow us to send that money outside of Pakistan, we can't earn any money. Free flow of capital issues, state bank controls, and it's a genuine problem. These guys had to have a special exclusion made by state bank that theek hai, we will allow you to send $1 million out this, so that you can earn $1.5 million. Can you imagine these are the struggles of the Pakistani publishers that the government has to be convinced कि यार पिछले 2 साल का revenue देख लो, money more than that always comes in. So amazing industry in that it's predominantly publishing focused. I don't think we have our star stories yet. We need to bring that publishing expertise in-house. Back when Mindstorm used to do mid-core games, it was an extremely courageous thing that they used to spend the money. And they proved that money could be earned back. So I feel that large scale of investment can easily make $10 million, $100 million companies out of all of us. I agree with that. But I'm very happy that this industry is spending on publishing. That's my insight. And I think that ये एक statistic बहुत important है. We often talk about the $200 billion gaming market. It is the single largest entertainment market in the world. It is important to understand that only 5% of that is production. Games का budget जिसमें बन रही हैं, 95% of that is money being earned via games being sold.
Yeah.
So that's the big multiplier effect.
बिल्कुल ठीक है. So we've run out of time. Last 30 seconds if anybody has something to say. Otherwise, hold your silence till the next time we meet. Okay, Khurram wants to say something, Ji.
This industry has come a long way, and we are very hopeful. Asad said that there are a few problems, but we had problems 10 years ago as well.
Absolutely.
We covered them, and inshallah ta'ala, and I'm confident that as an IT industry, and especially the gaming industry, will contribute to the success of this country, and we will make sure that we contribute by bringing in more revenues for this country as well.
Khurram for Prime Minister.
Will not let this country and our people down. We will do our best.
I just want to say one thing for the Pakistani mobile game industry. These two guys are the Graham Bells of Pakistani mobile game industry. But we are still looking for the Steve Jobs who just changed everything for us. Thank you.
So I'm going to say something a little mean.
Okay.
I'm going to be like, IT industry has a lot to learn from the games industry. A, look at how product focused we are. Harsh lessons, but has to be said, right? B, this is the most tightly knit IT circle that exists in Pakistan. 50 to 60 CEOs that know each other on a first name basis, meet each other, collaborate in a group, help each other out with each other's problems. The ecosystem that we talk about with regards to technology only works via collaboration. It does not work if you think that competing with each other is somehow the only answer to the problem. Saad runs a great publishing team. I'm talking to him about like, yeah, we'd like to make a game so that you publish it. We need to learn to work together. IT kept talking about the fact that there was a shortage of IT resources. 2-3 companies on this stage put the money together into training institutes for the industry, and we started pumping out our folks and said, we'll solve our problem. There are lessons to take away for the broader industry, and I sincerely hope that my harsh criticism doesn't get in the way of people accepting that.
Okay. Ji, Babar.
No, I think Ali's 100% right about the collaboration. I'm going to go out on a limb and make a prediction that I agree with what Khurram said, that the gaming industry in Pakistan, I think, is going to be surprising a lot of us in this room. I think we don't, like, people who don't understand what it is. I don't hail from a gaming background. I come from a technology background primarily. But just understanding the potential of this industry, I'm actually very, very hopeful. We have come a phenomenally long way. Like from the old days, it is a night and day difference. I have personally been looking at the Brazilian industry. We have about 20 companies we work with there. I've been looking at the Turkish industry. We've invested in about 8-9 companies there. I can tell you that Pakistan ki industry, mashallah, is on a very, very healthy path right now. We just need to align a little bit more. और आपको वो जो hockey stick effect नजर आता है ना entrepreneurship में, आपको इंशाल्लाह gaming industry से, that's my prediction. You will see some hockey stick coming out from here for sure. I'm pretty sure.
So last but not the least, whenever we compare the IT sector or the gaming sector in general, we forget that software houses existed back in the 90s. So they started back in the 90s. Gaming studios came into existence in Pakistan in after 2010, if I'm not wrong, or yes. So they started almost 20 years late, and given that they started 20 years late and the trajectory that they're going at, proves that gaming industry in general is not something that is just to have fun. It's something that is a very serious and viable option that other sectors can learn from rather than to criticize on. And all of the people sitting on this panel have made sure that those people take this industry seriously rather than something to mess around with.
Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you. This was a fantastic panel. We'll just conclude. Everybody who's working on the software development side only, please look at games. समझ आ गया है, बहुत potential है, बहुत पैसा है, खुद भी कमाएं, वापस पाकिस्तान में लेके आएं. Recruit people, train them. We've got to pay it forward, right? You've made the money through software, now invest. So bottom line, we need to set up more publishing arms. It's going to be a lot of money. So everybody come together. यहाँ पे देखें ये सब बैठे हुए, talk to them separately, and really, let's do it together.